Hello everyone, this is going to be a quick overview and review of the new Nolliewheels 2012 mould carbon decks. A couple of things to note before we start off. The price of this deck is €30. It comes in the colours black and silver. This is the black one obviously. It is 30mm wide by 100mm long. It has medium kicks, as you can see, medium to low concave. It is equal in its shape. That means that the nose and the tail are exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about nollie and switch being different. 16 grams with tuning, 10 grams by itself, although that's not really very helpful because you kind of need all the tuning on it. It is a fully carbon fibre deck. There's not one bit on the deck apart from the tuning that isn't carbon fibre, and it does have kingpin holes. Now, I've been using this deck for a good 5 to 6 months now, and all I can say is that it's brilliant. And now I'm going to explain why. Firstly, you might be wondering, 16 grams, isn't that heavier than most wooden decks? Yes, it is. Well spotted. The reason why is because, contrary to popular belief, carbon fibre is heavier than wood. This is just pretty much sheets upon sheets of this carbon fibre. Wood veneer is much lighter due to the way it's constructed. What you need to know is that this deck is heavier than wooden decks. However, it does not mean it is worse. The main reason why it's better than most wooden decks is because of the pop. Now, pop most people don't really have an issue with because you can pretty much live with any sort of pop. However, this deck has the most amount of pop I've ever used in my life, more so than the old carbon decks, and that's because, I don't know, they must use new carbon fibre, and also, in general, carbon fibre will never lose its pop due to the fact it's carbon fibre. Wood will go soggy because of the construction of it. Carbon fibre is synthetic, and therefore it will never lose its pop no matter how much you use it, until the tail and nose completely wear away, so you're left with a rectangle for a deck. It's always going to have infinite pop, way more than any other deck. Even if you wear down the tiny coating on top, it will still have tons and tons of pop. Another thing to note about this deck is that it's an extremely solid deck due to the carbon fibre construction. There's no sort of flex in it at all, and the harder the deck, the more pop you're going to get, so it just adds to the pop. Also, due to the fact it's very solid, it's not going to bend or snap under any sort of pressure or usage. The lacquer on this deck isn't really conventional lacquer. I'm not really sure what it is. I'm pretty sure it's just the coating for the carbon fibre, but because of this, it's never going to wear away, and even if it does, it's going to slide just as well if it had it. This is due to the fact, again, as I keep saying, it's a carbon fibre deck. When the lacquer wears away on the wooden deck, you're just left with raw wood, which doesn't slide very well on any material. With this slides perfectly on anything you want. Again, talking about the pop, the fact that the lacquer on it isn't really conventional lacquer, and it's the carbon itself, it doesn't add an extra layer of de-popifier, if you see what I mean. Lacquer, when it wears away, it's just left with the raw wood on the tail. This, even if it wears away, it's still going to be pure carbon fibre on both the tail and the nose, so you don't have to worry about losing pop from usage, as I stated before. On this deck, it's quite hard to see, but you can see the trucks are actually countersunk in the deck. This means while using it, you'll actually be closer to the ground, which gives you more control. The fact that this deck has an equal shape, in my opinion, makes it much easier to do any sort of trick, because it doesn't really matter what way you are, you can do any trick in any stance and it will all feel the same. When comparing the carbon deck to a regular Berlin wood, you can already tell that the carbon deck is wider and longer than the Berlin wood. You can't tell, but the carbon deck does have kingpin holes, therefore you do not have to use specialised fingerboard trucks to use them that do not have kingpin holes. The kicks are much higher on the carbon deck, which means you can get a higher pop and a higher flip. Also, both the kicks on the carbon decks, the nose and the tail, are bigger than on the Berlin wood. The trucks on the Berlin wood are not countersunk, which means you're slightly higher from the ground, so you will have a tiny bit less control, which can make all the difference when doing a trick. I probably don't have to mention this, but the carbon deck will have more pop due to the fact that it's carbon fibre constructed and it's pure carbon fibre. And of course the obvious flaw that the carbon fibre deck has is that it's much heavier than the Berlin wood. Just about does it for my review of the carbon deck. Just a quick recap. It's €30 for a black or silver deck. It's 30 by 100mm, has medium kicks, medium to low concave, 16 grams with tuning, 10 grams without, so it's heavier than wooden decks. It's a full carbon fibre body, which means it'll have the most amount of pop you can probably get from a fingerboard. It does have kingpin holes, so you do not have to use professional grade trucks to use them, or have to sand down your kingpins, and overall it's just a brilliant deck. I highly recommend it. You'll definitely get used to the weight and the shape pretty much instantly, and while you're at it, get yourself some nollie tape to go on top, some nollie wide chromes, and some runabouts. Do yourself a favour and get a brilliant setup. Thanks for watching guys, and I hope you liked it.